Well, I moved to Saugatuck in 2015, so I've been here 3 years. And moved over here from Freeland, Saginaw area.
Okay.
I've been in Michigan, back in Michigan since 1999. It's now home. Basically, I moved back to basically retire here.
Okay.
Was up at Northern in the 80s, so that's what brought me here in the first place. So,
Okay.
you know, a number of folks, they always like, wow, Garnet, you've kind of moved around quite a bit. And my background is my Air Force brat, my father's. So I was born and raised overseas. Mother's a native German. So, you know, I've now lived in Michigan the longest I've lived anywhere, and so it's it's home.
Okay.
So I love being in Saugatuck. I've kind of found my home, found my people, and it's just a great place to be. I'm surprised it took me so long to get here.
Huh.
Just love the whole area. Love being on the water.
Okay. Gotcha. So why the state senate?
Mm-hmm. So, you know, we're living in interesting times, right? I mean, it's a very interesting political environment that we're in. And, you know, I've been watching from the sidelines, if you will, just the political tenor of things. And we've just become, not just as a state, but as a country, very divisive. We can't even really have a conversation with one another. And I really would like to get us back to that. I think our best days were and will be when we can come together regardless of kind of our political ideology, but come together and meet in the middle and compromise. Because right now nothing's getting done. And whether it's Michigan or the federal level, when you have one party fully controlling everything, unfortunately, in this day and age, what they're doing is excluding the other party from even being a part of the discussion. And I think that's wrong. I mean, you know, we don't teach that on a college campus. And, you know, for me, especially with my university background, I watch this happening. I'm like, how can this be happening? So, you know, for me, it's very important that we start to find folks to step up and run for office who are truly committed to finding that middle ground, which is what I think most people want. They're tired of politicians, this fighting, this disagreement, this negative, people are sick and tired of it. So that's why I'm running, honestly. Because I think with my background in education, years and years in the higher education field of working with faculty and students and administration and always having, finding solutions to our problems on a college campus, you have to in order to survive. And I think we should expect no less from our elected officials. And if they can't do that, then they shouldn't be in office, quite frankly. So I think it's time for more people with varied backgrounds to step up and run for office and offer a perspective that I think is much needed.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So what types of public office positions have you filled
Mm-hmm.
before?
So elected office, none.
Okay.
I was the great thing about Saugatuck, also very arms wide open as far as engagement in city council type of stuff.
Right.
I hadn't even been in town maybe a month, and I was approached about, hey, we have an opening on the Board of Review. Are you interested?
Okay.
I was like, whoa. It's a little bit different from the I-75 corridor, where you have to kind of, favors are owed, if you will, in order to get appointments. And over on this side, it's very different. It's almost like, please, please. So the Board of Review, and then as soon as I interviewed for that, I'm like, well, we also have an opening on the Planning Commission.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, sure. So I've really, since 2015, been on the Board of Review and the Planning Commission, became chair of the Planning Commission in December.
Okay.
So that's been both have been a great experience. Actually, yesterday and the day before, 2 full days of Board of Review, so folks can come in and ask questions about their taxes and assessed value.
Okay.
It's very stimulating, exciting stuff.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what issues would you want to take on or sort of focus on as a state senator?
Mm-hmm. Well, I've talked a lot about already kind of one of my, regardless of platform issues, for me, my first major goal would be to approach my friends on the other side of the aisle and talk about how we can work together. You know, and in the Senate, in the Michigan Senate, the GOP has firm control of the Senate, so even if the Democratic Party manages to pick up a couple seats, they'll still be in the minority. So that you have to, I mean, it's not my intention to go to Lansing and be a silent member of the minority party. I think it's more important for me to find the folks on the other side of the aisle with whom we can have some common legislation. So that being said, for me, you know, I have 4 kind of main priorities: healthcare, and the Healthy Michigan Plan, which actually Rick Snyder is a strong proponent of. I firmly I'm on board with that, and I think we need to do better. Education, obviously. I mean, higher ed funding for me is like the #1 thing, and you can relate to this because college tuition just keeps going up, and I think we owe our students more. If we want our students, our young people, to be educated here and stay here, we need to make it affordable. Environmental issues. My goodness, you can't live on the west side of the state. I mean, we have a little old pontoon. We're on the water all the time, whenever we can be. I'm an avid runner, marathon runner, and I'm a hiker. So for me, the environment and what we're doing to our rivers and streams, and it's very important. And then lastly, where we are on infrastructure and technology, we really can do better. I mean, not just with the roads, but on our broadband access. I mean, we have areas of even West Michigan that still don't have any access, much less adequate access. And then my friends up in the UP, heavens, I mean, they're still struggling to get connection up there. So those are the 4 main issues. And I would right away, and you know, having lived up in Saginaw, I happen to know Ken Horn very well, Senator Horn, and we actually call one another friends. And you know, Ken would be one of the first people I would sit down with and see what we could do together as senators, regardless of party. And I have a good bit of faith in Ken that we would be able to do some stuff together that would I think, benefit everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So could you talk a little bit more about what you want to work on as far as healthcare and the Healthy Michigan Plan go?
So, this is going to get into the weeds. So in 2013, the legislature passed the Healthy Michigan Plan, and it was part of the Medicaid supplement from the ACA, Affordable Care Act. And part of that agreement, and this was happening not just with Michigan, but with all the states. Basically, the feds were coming and saying, "Hey, you know, through the ACA, we're gonna fund all your Medicaid at 100%, but then over the course of every year, that'll decrease." So then it went down to 95, went down to 90, and then basically it would be like grant funding for me on a university campus. You get the grant, but you also have to say, eventually, we're going to take over this funding for this. That being said, last year in 2017, the legislature actually kind of implemented a kill switch, if you will. They call it a kill switch. If the revenue, and the language I'm never going to get right, so this is an area I've got to get the language. If the revenue exceeds the expenditures, it'll shut it off. And what that means is that the 650,000 people who are receiving Medicaid supplement in the state, it'll be shut off. And it was a big brouhaha last year on the floor that you were putting people's access in jeopardy. And I think that's criminal. We cannot be doing that. And quite frankly, then that being said, my heart and my mind is moving strongly to single-payer health care. And I know that's a national issue, but I want to see how we as a state can get to the point where every person, regardless of income, has health coverage. Because I think too many people worry about, it's really, for me, it comes down to it's a financial thing. If I have to keep a pot of money aside and always be saving because I don't know what's going to happen to my prescription plan, I don't, the next emergency that's coming, I've got this pot of money over here that I'm sitting on. If I didn't have to worry about that, I'd be spending that pot of money on goods and services. Now, in my little mind, that's a good thing for the economy. So when I think about healthcare and what we can and should do for everybody in the state, for me it's really almost an economic thing. That if we we relax the stress off of people, this burden, if you will, they'll spend their income and bolster our economy. So that's where I'm at with that.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's pretty extreme, but you know what? As wealthy a country as we are, it's just, for me, it's almost sinful that we don't provide everyone with health coverage. It's
Okay.
just blows my mind.
Okay. So what about a lot of issues that I've been covering lately relate back to mental health and mental health funding issues, especially in Ottawa County.
Right.
And I know that 26th District is mostly Allegan County, but
Yeah.
how...
It's everywhere. I mean,
Right.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Right. How would you, try and take on, I guess, issues of mental health and address those, and then, try and address mental health funding issues specifically?
It goes right back to what I just said. If you have folks on a single payer plan, that's part of your single payer plan. And what's been happening, this started way before you were born, in the Reagan days, when we started cutting funding for mental health and human services, right? That's when we started moving people from actually receiving care where they could even receive long-term care to actually putting them on the street and homeless. Yeah, it's criminal in my mind. So anyway, if we can get to a point where we actually have everyone on a single-payer plan, and that issue is moot. So if you look back at it, what I am asking is for us to become a proactive legislature. Don't always be reacting to the problem of the day, right? If we did this the right way and put in the right plan and budgeted properly in a proactive way, we would be able to provide health care coverage, mental care coverage, anything when it comes to health and human services. So it's a big issue, and we keep putting a Band-Aid on it. And sooner or later, we're going to have to fund things at the level at which they need to be funded. And no one likes to talk about that, but you're going to have to pay for it. And we need to find a way to do that. And again, going back to a single-payer plan, I think takes care of everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what about, and I'm sure there are some areas of Allegan County that have issues with this, but especially in Holland, we have a big affordable housing issue. Is there anything that you think could be done in the state senate to sort of take on that issue?
I don't know enough about it to answer that question, but that's one of the areas I'll do some research and study up on.
Gotcha.
I know Saugatuck, I know for sure it's a big problem. And I know how it pertains to just our little area of our schools. We have a great school system in Saugatuck, but yet we've got young families that can't afford to live in Saugatuck. Now, luckily, we're a school of choice, but they're bringing their children in from afar. I've been asked this before, even before I decided to run. Isn't there something we can do to provide more affordable housing? And I'll do some more research on that one.
Okay.
So,
sounds good.
you write that down. Please write that down.
So talk a little bit more about what sorts of environmental issues you want to take on.
Well, let's see. What is it? The Wolverine with their contaminating. And it's not just here in our area. It's it's everywhere in the state. We have this problem. If in Flint we can't even get clean drinking water, we've got a real problem. And it's not just Flint. It's also I was reading the other day where we were having this problem. So forgive me, I'm drawing a blank. But we have the same problem over here, where we've got communities that are concerned about their drinking water. Again, this is an infrastructure issue. We've got pipes that are old and need to be replaced. It's going to cost money. But I think, again, this is where we're going to need to be proactive, because the reactive part of this is paying a lot of money in lawsuits to people. I mean, you got to decide are you going to go on ahead and bite the bullet and get the money to improve our infrastructure, replace our rusting old pipes so that people are ensured safe drinking water, or are you going to wait until a lot of people die or are diseased in some way, whether it's salmonella or Legionnaire's disease. We've got to start being proactive about this. So the drinking water, contamination issues, I live right on the river there, on Kalamazoo River, and we're still dealing with the consequences of lax environmental regulations from, 30s, 40s, 50s. I don't think anybody realized how bad they were contaminating things. So we've got to look at, and cleanup is an interesting issue. And I have a lot of experience with the whole Tittabawassee dioxin issue up in Midland. And my spouse is a chemist, so I get lessons on this all the time about, the best way in which to deal with that. And sometimes digging it up is not a good thing. It's better to just let nature's way cover it. So, I think we need to really put some, again, being proactive, and there's been a lot of research and studying done about this, but what do we do to make sure this doesn't happen anymore? What do we do to make sure that our corporations who don't contribute further to the contamination of our environment?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess, what do you think about running in a district that, at least for the past couple terms, has, the seat's been held by a Republican, I think?
The same as, you're here in Holland, so it's a different Senate district, but yeah, the 26th district, I don't know that there has ever been a Democrat. And then the House seats, same thing. It's been a while. It's interesting. It's kind of like any challenge, right? We're in the midst of basketball season. A lot of good underdogs. Surprise. You never can take anything for granted. If you plan the right way, if you put together a good game plan, literally, you could surprise. And in this, as I said when we started, I really do believe, and I hear this even before I decided to run, people they're so tired of this lack of agreement. It's just so negative. And so my approach is, please give me the honor to represent you, to be a different perspective, a different voice. Hey, you've had one party representing you for decades. Give me a try. All I can do is try. And I will represent every one of you to the best of my ability. I won't make promises I can't keep. I'll go out and meet you and listen and hear what your issues are, and give it a try, because what we've been doing, your representation, has failed you. Literally, they have failed you. So it's time for a change. I think people really want it, and I will ask them to have the courage right along with me to make that difference.
Okay.
But I think for too long, people have watched and said, oh, this is a really conservative district. Not a chance. Hey, I want people to have a choice. I want a choice. I expect it no matter any office I vote for. I want choices, and I don't vote straight ticket. I never have, because I like to hear what the person's issues are, what they're going to do for my district, what they're going to do for me in the United States on a federal level. And I think this district deserves the very same. So that's why I'm running.
Okay, sounds good. So do you think, that's something that you are going to be able to do between now and November, is, surprise people with new ideas and a new platform and, a new party?
Yeah, and yes, I do actually. And you say new ideas. It's not necessarily new ideas, it's just a different approach, right?
Okay.
I'm willing to, as I've said, reach across the aisle and work with my friends. I've been engaged politically as an activist for over a decade in Michigan. I know a number of these elected people. I know them. So this kind of learning curve that some legislators have, no, I already know some of these people. We have relationships. So my commitment is not necessarily new ideas, but it's actually doing something. Actually do something. Do something instead of going off into your caucus corners and saying, these are our talking points and this is what we're gonna, no. So what is new for me is as a candidate is my willingness to work across the aisle. And what will be my conversation to the Democrats in the district will be, in order to succeed as a legislator in this district, much less in the state, middle, compromise, work together, find a way. People expect it. They want it. They want nothing less.
Okay.